Hey my friends, welcome, namaste, hello, here we are. It is the 3rd of February here in New Zealand. It's 9 a.m. Wednesday morning. Normal time for doing this chat with Matt, an opportunity to spend about half an hour, 40 minutes talking about whatever you feel would serve you right now. Whether you have a question, whether you have a request to a topic, whether you just want to share something, you're welcome to interact via the chat that scrolls up the screen, or write in ahead of time. I always put a notification on in the Bright Light Beings community group about 12 hours or so before this happens. I think last night it was 9 hours. Yes, that was about midnight my time. But never mind. It happens. Hey, Sister Sylvie. So here we are to talk about whatever you would like. I do have some questions in because I saw them last night. Hey there are 777 members here. Awesome, Sylvie. That is an awesome number of members. Here we go. So I put a little notification on, and it was with a little poster from a few years ago that said, find the courage to step forward past your resistance. Find the courage to step forward past your resistance and you will soon know authentic confidence. So the point of that poster was, because we're working with courage this month, it is the month of February in the Mantara Transformation Empowerment Support Community, our nest. We're working with courage. We work with a topic every month, and this month is going to be courage for the month of February. Courage is really a deep quality of the heart, which is why we chose February, and it, just feels like it lines up. Because courage really is the ability to align with love and to operate from love. Courage is the ability to do what love inspires you to do, rather than what fear is creating, right? The fear mentality, working from love consciousness rather than fear mentality. Hey, Sister Jane. So that, thank you. There we go. So that's what we're working with this month, to really find a new deep level of courage, rather than just get caught up in the idea that courage is some sort of bravery where you sort of mentally push past the fear, where you just mentally do it. Courage really comes from the heart. It's a real deep, authentic confidence in yourself. So the point of the poster is that understanding that you step forward with courage, and as you do so, you build up a history, which is what we call confidence. Confidence is basically the ability to trust yourself, that you have the ability to maintain courageous, to maintain your courage, right? To maintain your heart connection, to keep operating from love despite the fact that there's fear in the field, right? And this is the point. A lot of people think that their confidence is going to come when there's no more fears. And it's just deluded, right? Because you're not going to get to a point where there's no more fears. Fears will pop up in the mind from time to time, always in human form, in my opinion, at least as far as we can see forward. So, hey, Sister Jill. So the point is not to think that your freedom is somehow the absence of fear, or the absence of doubt, or the absence of challenges. That's not freedom. Freedom is the ability to have fears, to have doubts, to have challenges in your life, to have resistance arising, to have physical discomforts in your space. Freedom is the ability to have all of that and yet not be overly influenced by it, right? Not to be railroaded into a state of being based on what you are experiencing, but rather to remember that what you are experiencing is what you are releasing, and it's your choice to align with where you are going. Hey, Sister Vanessa, welcome. So I do have some questions, and I am happy to get any questions that arise from the floor. But that is, I just thought I'd talk about the prompt that I put up, which I just basically scroll through, the hundreds of old posters. I used to do posters all the time. I don't do them so much anymore because basically I'm too lazy. I quote unquote should. It is on my list. I've got a bit of paper. I've got a whole file on my computer of quotes that I've, Mantara quotes, basically things that have popped into my mind during meditation, things that have popped out during journaling after meditation, to put a photo to and put out there, but it hasn't seemed to come to the top of the priority list. Still spending a lot of time building my deck at the moment, that is the truth. It is coming along, albeit very slowly. So I don't know, I seem to be spending a lot of my time doing it, as well as running around doing other things with children and gardens and households in general, and not finding much time for doing extracurricular Mantara business like writing posters and inspiring people in that way. Anywho's, it will change. So Christina asked from England, "Hi Matt, given the incredibly intense energies at the moment, I would love to know how you are able to cope with the many and varied physical ailments that are arising." Yeah, I'm going to talk to that first. I'm going to come back to this, Christina. I'm going to talk to what Jill said because it kind of fits into what I was just saying. Jill wrote, "It's a bit like stress. It's never non-existent, but it depends on how we deal with it." And stress is an interesting word because we use it to describe both the physiological response to situations and the situation itself. We say that's a stress, or a stressor, or a stressful situation. And it's true that we will never stressful situations and stressors in our life, e.g. things that could create stress, will never be non-existent. But stress itself, in my opinion, in my vernacular, is the physical response to those situations. And while on a level, we'll never be devoid of it because it's very, very natural and very, very reptilian, instinctive, right, to get a hit of stress hormones when something happens that's beyond our normal, right? Something that is perceived immediately as being dangerous, and sometimes it is dangerous, and sometimes it's totally appropriate to feel stressed in that situation because that's how we stay alive. And that will never go away because it's a survival technique, and our world will always be full of opportunities to get stressed. You know, you're walking across the road, and next minute you realise you didn't see a car coming, right? Time to be stressed so that you can react in an appropriate way with all of your strength and external focus on the senses that you are perceiving. But ongoing stress, e.g. the propensity to get lost in a stress response, is of course avoidable because we can deal with it in appropriate ways. So we don't need to be stressed in the world in an ongoing sort of way, thinking the busyness of the world and having to do all this, because you can be really busy without being stressed. You can be engaged in all sorts of challenges without getting stressed, right? Because you have a perspective that these challenges are not life-threatening, and that you've trained yourself enough to use techniques to breathe and release the early stages of this tension building in your body and the stress hormones being released, so that your reptilian brain, your amygdala, your hypothalamus, hippocampus, whatever the frig it's called, I always get mixed up with all those terms, it doesn't really matter, but that part of your brain doesn't go into overload, and therefore it doesn't send out all the chemicals, the cortisol and the adrenaline and all the rest of it, and therefore you don't go down that slippery slope of, because once you allow the stress response to take over in your body, then it gets harder and harder to stay intuitive, it gets harder and harder to stay logical, it gets harder and harder to stay relaxed, right? And tension builds upon itself, because once you're already stressed, then smaller and smaller things stress you, right? You get hypervigilant to noise, you get hypervigilant to movement, you get hypervigilant to anything out of the normal, and every time it happens you get more and more jarred, and that can quickly snowball and escalate into a very dysfunctional state. Thanks, Sylvie. Sylvie wrote, "I love your reset the stress response track. It changed the way I sleep." Yeah, that's an awesome one. It's in the sleep package. And I've got a few that are designed to help people interrupt the stress response, so that you don't need to go down that slippery slope if you've failed at the first attempt to breathe your way out of it, to perspectivize, that's an interesting word. That's nearly as good as, what was the one I was using on the last live stream? I can't remember if it was this live stream or my drops of light. I think it was my drops of light. I was calling about the situation right now, the shit of a situation that we are in on this planet right now. Kind of tongue-in-cheek, but funny at the same time, because we were doing a lot of laughing in that live stream. I do a live stream every week also in the Mantara Transformation Empowerment Support Community, which is sort of a deeper one than this in some ways. It's a little bit longer, and we can go a bit deeper because the audience is much narrower than in this bigger society, in this bigger community. it's a paid group. That always brings a deeper level of alignment. Anywho's. So Christina, back to Christina's question. Given the incredible intense energies at the moment, I'd love to know how you are able to cope with the many and varied physical ailments that are arising. I cope by remembering that what I'm feeling is what I'm releasing. I cope by choosing not to be concerned by the discomfort that arises with what we might call ailments, physical sensations, right? Different things. You know, I had a huge thing going on with my shoulder for months, pretty much a year, actually. It's almost been a year to the day that my shoulder started getting very limited in how high it can come up. A lot of pain. There's a physio said it might be frozen shoulder, different chiropractor. I've worked with an osteopath, a chiropractor, and a physio. And finally, it seems to just be releasing now, and I've got much more movement here, although it's still not quite as good as it was previously, but it's getting much, much better, which is interesting because I'm doing a lot of physical labor as well. So that was concerning at first. Oh my God, how am I going to be able to do all this work when my shoulders are quite titchy? Hey, Sister Mary. But actually, as you ignore it, as you don't make a story about it, which is what I tried to do at first. I ignored it for many a month, and then slowly but surely I started going, maybe I should get this checked out. What if there's some sort of degeneration here that needs attention or something? So I went down that route with various professionals, and in the end of the day, it seems to just be sorting itself out as I've chosen to relax. The good thing about all those professionals is they all sort of ruled out that it was some sort of degenerative, nasty thing, right? Because when your arm stops working, you know, as it should, you start to think, especially when you know you haven't injured it in any specific incident, and you've given it enough time to heal if it was injured, then you start to, you know, your mind can start spinning out narrative stories about what's going on there, and it's not good. So that's not good when your mind goes down those stories. So sometimes it's helpful to get advice around that, and in this case, the advice was very good, even though they couldn't really help specifically in any short period of time anyway. It always helps when you invest time and your money in serving yourself, but it's also valid and important that you don't fall into their narrative around it, right? That you don't take their advice or their diagnosis as gospel, right? Because we don't want to fall into their diagnosis, because that usually comes with a prognosis, and sometimes their prognoses aren't very good. Because they're only doing their best based on the symptomology. So yeah, maybe there's just less burden on my shoulders, Sister Sylvia, exactly. But anyway, so how do I deal with, I've got all sorts of alerts and shit going off right now. How do you deal, that's the problem with your calendars telling you everything you've got coming up. How do you deal with these physical ailments? Firstly, I maintain a positive perspective around it. Secondly, I find a balance between being compassionate with my body, so not pushing my body, and also not allowing myself to feel like a victim to whatever physical sensation is going on. So I ignore it to a point. I recognize it and acknowledge it, and then I choose not to let it limit me. I choose to remember that what I'm feeling is just what I'm releasing, and generally these ailments are not actually damage in the physical body. It's not usually a dis-ease. Well, yeah, it's dis-ease because it's just energy, but it hasn't, in my opinion, what I'm feeling hasn't manifest into structural issues, although maybe my shoulder has or had, but it isn't really caused by a structural problem, right? So, or a out of balance chemical problem, but all of those can be part of it, but they come secondary. I try to remember that everything I'm feeling is basically energy. I am basically energy, and my world is basically energy, and therefore I don't get too caught up in wanting to make it worse by moving, right? Or you know, experiencing the discomfort while I move. It's not that I'm scared of discomfort, right? I think not being scared of things definitely helps us to move through. It's kind of like the age-old Buddhist, you know, teaching, or the Hindu teaching that says, you know, as long as you fear death, you can't really live. As long as we feel pain, as long as we fear pain, we can't really experience freedom, right? We can't really experience life while we're fearing pain, while we're trying to avoid pain. If you're trying to avoid pain, you can't really enjoy joy, That's the point, right? Because to go into joy, you need to be willing to risk pain, right? To experience love, you need to be willing to risk pain. If you want to stay immune, if you want to stay safe, if you want to stay devoid of pain, you'll also devoid yourself of all the high vibrations as well, because you will basically wrap yourself in cotton wool, you will shut yourself down, and you will very, very, very much limit the experiences that you can have, because experiences are inherently risky. We don't know how they're going to go. No one knows how they're going to go. Even things that go well might induce pain, right? Because there's detoxification that happens, there's purification that happens. When things go well, when I do well and I earn some money, then I experience pain. I experience my not worthiness come up, and I have to consciously work through that experience of actually succeeding when there's still vibrations in my field that say maybe it's not appropriate to be that successful, right? That's the process of evolution. So even in having a good outcome, there is discomfort involved, but that discomfort's worth it, right? A bit of short-term pain is worth the longer-term gain. So for me to keep moving through the varied physical ailments is to remember that all of this is worth it, that the physical ailments are not real in a way. Not that I, so it's about finding that balance, that balanced viewpoint, that balanced mentality or attitude or perspective towards what you're experiencing. So you still maintain compassion for yourself, and at the same time, you don't let the narrative or the story railroad you into reinforcing, some sort of belief system that you are damaged or something's wrong, or now you need to heal this. Oh, I need to heal this. I need to go on a huge healing journey to fix this issue that just arose from nowhere. It's like, no, that doesn't make sense, right? If it arose from nowhere, it'll disappear into nowhere. Your job is just to carry on regardless, right? Carry on regardless. Which doesn't mean, being non-compassionate with yourself, right? So yeah, we might have to modify some things. So maybe it's not completely regardless, but you don't let it limit your beingness here on the planet. Pam said, yes, thank you for helping me love myself through my resistance. Awesome. We're very happy to help you, help everyone who comes to us or members of this community or any other way have interaction with us to love themselves through resistance, because that is our process right now. Sister Sylvie wrote, I started with some movement of the body to amplify the courage in me to move forward. How would you suggest I motivate myself to stick to that habit each morning? I have lost muscles during lockdown. I was thinking about starting slow and only 10 minutes so that I stick to those 10 instead of getting towards big expectations and not lasting long. Yeah, well, excellent. That's a great start, right? To make your goalposts achievable is very, very important with maintaining your intentions to keep doing something that you feel is beneficial for you. Other things that really help is for you specifically, Sylvie, because I know you love to journal, is to journal around the why you are choosing to maintain that habit of spending 10 minutes in movement with the intention to strengthen yourself and to improve your overall health and ability to move and to feel stronger in your body, and therefore have more confidence in your body and therefore energetically on the planet. So remember why you're doing it and write about it regularly, and perhaps leave prompts around the house is beneficial. Also, I find working with some sort of calendar works very, very well. Scheduler, I just use Google Calendars, and if I have something in there, then it pops up and tells me this is the time to do that, and I just choose more often than not to comply with my own intentions, to follow through with what I've scheduled. And if I can't, then I just move it a little bit, and if I really can't, then I compassionately delete it. But I tend to not make it a habit to delete things that I set my intention around doing, and at the same time I maintain a balance with choosing to do such things from a space of love rather than choosing to do it from a space of discipline, fear-based discipline, that I'm going to make myself do it from some sort of fear of failure. So I don't fear failure, but I love the idea of doing what I know is going to serve me, and I recognize the fact that there will be resistance to doing it. So I'm willing to have the discipline to step past my resistance, but doing it from a space of love rather than fear. So loving the outcome rather than fearing the failure. So that's those two things help a lot. Well, three things I think I spoke about. But remember the why, schedule it, and intentionally work with your schedule in a loving way rather than a fear-based way. Don't beat yourself up if you fail, right? Don't put yourself down if you don't manage to get there. Just lovingly choose to do it again tomorrow, right? Jill wrote, pain for me is often giving a message, sometimes indirectly, not about the side of the pain. Once the message is received, understood consciously or subconsciously, and let go, the pain can too. Exactly. And that's very, very common. Pain is just a physical manifestation of energy in the body, and that does come quite often with some sort of deeper reason. It's important not to get too lost in the intellectual fight for understanding that reason. Quite often I will just flick open Louise Hayes's, classic book, Heal Yourself or whatever, and you can just get it online. Get the list online anyway. If you Google metaphysical reason for shoulder pain, you will get some stuff around that. But as Jill pointed out, sometimes it's more obscure than that. Sometimes the pain is not really related to this issue, and it's more a matter of meditating around acceptance of the pain and really just inviting whatever the energy is that's creating the pain, not so much to just come up to release. A lot of people just want to get it done with. I just want it to go away, but sometimes to share with you why it's in your life right now. But doing so from a space of not getting lost in the need to understand for it to release. But if there is things to be understood, if there are messages to be gained, whether consciously or subconsciously, inviting that in, right? What is this? Just asking the question of yourself, what is this pain here to teach me? What is this pain here to give me? What is the gift in this pain? You can do the same thing. What is the gift in this situation when you're having a hard situation, right? When the situation seems like the shits, and you, or a good situation, you can do the same thing, because we tend to, that's why many of the great saints in days of old prayed for hard times and suffering, because the teaching was, and I'm not prescribing to this teaching, but there is some validity to it, right? Is that in good times we forget God, and it's only during hardship and suffering that we remember God. As suffering brings us closer to God is a very, very strong belief system on this planet. And many of us who are very, very dedicated to getting closer to God, right, to knowing ourselves, to being more with the light, have over many successive lifetimes chosen paths of suffering to help us get there. And in today's energy, it is not required, and that is part of the belief systems that many of us are letting go. This idea that the meek and those who suffer will inherit the earth, right? Will inherit heaven. Will go to heaven, right? You'll go to heaven because you so courageously experienced your pain, right, on this lifetime. So we're letting go of that, but at the same time, understanding that pain is a messenger. Pain is a great motivator. Pain is part of the change process. It can be used to inspire change, and it can be used or it can arise as part of the natural progression through a change. So Mary wrote, yes, the suffering servant, I know so damn well. Yeah. So we relax, right? We relax and trust that this stuff's coming up to release. And many of us are finding our martyrdom or our people-pleasing or our low self-worth, not deserving of having good outcomes arising right now, as it is all coming up to release as we move into a deeper and deeper alignment with our freedom. There are more replies here after Sam's question. Yeah, Sam wrote, small steps forward help build your confidence. Definitely the way I built up my running distance. Okay, Sylvie wrote, I just put on an alarm at 8:08 a.m. all days of the week. We'll see how I follow through with that for the magic morning muscle moves momentum. MMMM. Sylvie loves a bit of alliteration. Morning muscle moves motivate. Magic morning muscle moves motivation. Momentum. Sorry, I can't read, but anyway, you get it. That's a lot of things that make you go Anyway, as long as it works, Sylvie, yeah, an alarm at 8:08 is a great idea. And then, just 10 minutes, just 10 minutes, just 10 minutes, and make it fun 10 minutes. That's the other thing to do. Whatever you're choosing to do to strengthen, make it a fun thing. Incorporate laughter in it. And I was talking to one of my clients, who I've actually got a session with later on today, about, doing exercise and wasting time, quote unquote, wasting time watching funny videos, which he found that he was doing far too much instead of getting productive work done, because he works from home, like many of us do these days. And so I told him, one of the ways to get by through this is to only be allowed to watch funny videos while you're on your exercise bike, right? So, and when you're on your exercise bike, you are to watch funny videos, hey Sister Rosie, and enjoy it, right? So that you are basically combining two things that you don't think you have time for, because he was saying, I don't have time to exercise and I waste a lot of time watching funny videos. So right, let's cut down the amount of time you spend watching comedy, and spend more time doing things that are productive, and incorporate exercise with the watching comedy, right? So it's a win-win-win. I'm going to talk to him later on to see how he's doing with that. But so the point is, if you're needing to exercise and you're having, don't make it a military exercise. Dance, put music on, sing while you do it. Do whatever lifts your vibration. Make it fun, or whatever fun is for you. Some people would find dancing not fun because they feel they don't enjoy it, right? But whatever it is for you, allow it to be so, right? And I just be willing to multitask. That's what I tend to do. I wanted to watch some stuff that's on the edge of what's important for me, and I also needed to prepare to dehydrate a whole heap of plums off our tree. We've got buckets of plums off the tree, so dehydrating them, it's quite a task to cut them up to the right size and get them in the dehydrator on the trays. It takes like half an hour. I didn't feel I had time to do that, but I combined them, right? So I watched something. It's mainly listening anyway. So I brought my laptop into the kitchen and set it up while I did the plums last night. Reasonably late, mind you, but it's good because now they're dehydrating and I'll get another lot done tonight. Probably doing the same thing, right? So choosing to combine two things. So I don't feel guilty about sitting down and watching this video, and I don't feel that doing the plums is somehow a burden, because now I'm getting to do something I enjoy while I do the plums, and of course I get to eat the plums for the rest of the year in my breakfast after plum season has finished, which is a win-win-win. So be willing to work. We're talking, with the last new moon around bringing in more loving structures into our life. And this is kind of the structures that we're bringing in. This idea of win-win-win is an important structure for us to anchor on the planet right now, in my opinion. This idea that we don't need to maintain the old fear-based structures of rules and getting it right and all of that, jumping through burning hoops in order to be successful. And we can allow ourselves to live a much more flowing life, which still has a degree of structure. Multitasking. Multitasking gets a bad rap sometimes. And of course, some people try to over multitask and then don't do anything appropriately. So it's important that you choose what you multitask on. And if something requires your focus, then don't be multitasking while you do it. Don't be driving and trying to text. That's not a great use of multitasking. But at the same time, you could be driving and listening to a podcast, right? You could be. Which is not going to distract you, because you don't need to look at anything. It's just audio, and you could be listening to the radio at the same time. So you could either choose to listen to the radio, or you could listen to something educational, something that you're interested in, something that's going to improve your skill level, something that's going to motivate you perhaps, or something that's going to lift your mood, which could be the radio and singing, and that could be valid for you. But a lot of people, don't use their time very conscious multitasking. I like that, Jill. You're choosing to multitask in a way that's very beneficial and is appropriate at appropriate times. And then when it's appropriate to focus singularly on one thing, do that as well. The important thing is to remember we do have enough time for everything that's important, and it's just a matter of working out what's important for us. How am I going for time? 9:30. I'm just about up. Sylvie wrote, I also think that sharing this in public will now help that I have said I commit to those 10 minutes. I deal with quite some overweight, so taking things slow. Awesome, and that is true. Accountability is an important one that really is a great motivator for humans. So when we tell someone who we respect that we're going to do something, then more likely we are going to do it, right? As if we keep it to ourselves, then it's much easier to let ourselves down than it is to let someone else down. That is particularly true for people like you and I who are people pleasers, who are concerned with our acceptability or our how much we are appreciated in the world. We have, these low self-worth issues that have led us to wanting to be good, right, and proper in the eyes of others. We can use that in our advantage, to our advantage as well. And when we tell someone we're going to do something, then we're more likely to do it. So if we tell someone we're going to do something that is beneficial for us, then that's a great thing to do. If we make a promise to someone to do something that's sacrificial to ourselves, then we need to be willing to renegotiate that, to become aware, well, that's not actually working for me. I know I said I was going to do that, but I'm willing to change that, right? So I've spoken before about not being overly dedicated to honoring your word, and more dedicated to honoring your heart and your knowing in the moment, right? Because this propensity to want to think that it's very, very important to go through with what we said we'll do has to change on the planet, because it's keeping us stuck. We get sort of railroaded or tricked into making promises based on the pretense at the time, and then we realize that it's not really planning out the way we thought we did, and then we go, oh my God, now I've promised to do it, so I have to be good, right, and proper. No, you don't have to, right? The primary objective is to honor what you know in the moment, what's most beneficial to you, because that is what's most beneficial to the all. And maintaining promises that the situation has changed beneath, right, is not smart and is not good, and it's not actually a virtue. That level of honorability is old school shadow masculine patriarchy that is dying, right? So we're moving out of that. We're moving out of those sort of promises. We're moving out of those sort of commitments. We're moving out of those sort of contracts that keep you in sacrificial roles or keep someone else in a sacrificial role. We're moving into an age of love, and it won't feel good to us to have ourselves sacrificing ourselves to deliver a service or a promise, nor will it feel good to have other people doing the same for us. So that's going to change, and how we do business and with all those sorts of contracts is also going to change. We're going to be much, much more dedicated, higher priority to having win-win-win outcomes, right? We're going to want other people to joyfully give us their service, and we are going to want to joyfully give our service, because any other service is not very serviceful. Anyway, my friends, I think I've answered the questions that were written in before, and as far as I could tell, nothing else popped up the screen as we were going that I should have spoken to, but I may be wrong, and if I missed something important, trying not to be angry over useless suffering for the majority of my life. So allow yourself to be angry, Mary, because trying not to be angry creates suppressed anger. So this is the point, right? So allow yourself to be angry over the useless suffering, and then allow the useless suffering to go. Right? It's appropriate that you're angry if you're suffering uselessly, because your needs aren't being met. So anger is an appropriate response to that situation. Now, from the space of anger, how do you change your perspective so that you're no longer angry, rather than trying to not be angry? Because if you're angry, you're angry. So change your perspective and allow yourself to find a new perspective that allows you to be joyful in the discomfort that you're feeling, as opposed to the useless suffering, because the discomfort will be there. And so stuff in the past has happened. So it's happened and you're angry about it. So breathe into that, journal about that, write it all down, and then burn it, right? And let it go. Let go of your past so that the anger can disappear. Don't try and work with the anger itself, because the anger is a response. You have to work with the situation that created the anger. So if you've experienced suffering that you feel was useless for the majority of your life, and you're angry about that, then you need to work with coming to terms with that. You need to not prioritize, perspectivize. You need to re-perspectivize the suffering that you've had the whole of your life, and understand that it has shaped you, that it has given you a foundation, that it has been a valid experience for you as a soul, right? You need to come to that arrangement with yourself that you make it okay that you've suffered what you've suffered through the past, because to make it anything other than okay will prolong the suffering. So when you find acceptance about what's happened in your past, then you will be able to release the anger around it, not before. If you're just trying to get rid of the anger because you don't want to be angry, you are always going to be angry, because what you don't want, or what you do want, right? Wanting is a very, very sticky vibration, and desires and aversions, keep us in wheels of karma, so to speak. Keep us in relationship to those things that we either desire or are adverse to, trying to avoid. So recognize and accept that you're angry, and make it okay to be angry. Let go of the indoctrination that anger is somehow wrongness, right? That's the church has done that to you, and various other layers of societal influence has said that anger is very wrong, and that's just to keep us all disempowered. So as soon as we feel angry, we then feel guilty, and that prevents us from changing much at all, and keeps us in a very disempowered relationship with ourselves and our past and our ability to move forward, because anger is also a motivator just like pain, and anger is a very, very potent motivator and a very good motivator, and there's nothing at all wrong with anger as long as we can use it in empowered ways, in constructive ways, not in rageful ways. The problem is, if you keep stuffing your anger back down, if you keep making it wrong, then sooner or later it volcanoes out of you in rage, and then you do something quote unquote stupid, which then just verifies why anger is such a wrong thing. So we need to find an empowered relationship with anger, because it's appropriate to feel angry when your needs are not being met. And of course your needs are perceived needs, and that's okay though, because if that's your perceived need at the time and you're angry about it, then come to that acceptance and then have a look at whether that perception is actually accurate, because sometimes the best way to release the anger is to change your perception around what your needs actually are. But it all has to come from love rather than trying to fix. And certainly not trying to fix because the anger is wrong, or the suffering is wrong, or the pain is wrong. Oh, I need to heal myself because I can't cope with this pain anymore. That's not going to work, right? I'm choosing to allow myself to heal because I desire to have more freedom. That's going to work, but I need to fix this pain. I need to fix this pain because I can't cope anymore isn't going to work. It's going to keep you in that entanglement, right? In that desire, aversion, entanglement, in that desperation to think that your happiness is on the other side of being devoid of the pain, right? But if you choose to heal because you desire the freedom, then you've got a much, much better chance of moving into that freedom one way or another. And you still might have the discomfort for a while, as you embrace the discomfort. Anyway, so it's just a matter of working in loving ways with ourselves and not getting caught up in the ways that we've been trained. And it's not easy, because this training is not just this lifetime. It's been, indoctrinated over several thousand years of how we operate from a very mental point of view of dogmatic rights and wrongs, right? Polarities, good and bad. Pain is good, pain is wrong, joy or happiness or freedom is good, and we can't have one without the, we can't have both at once, right? But you can't, if you've got pain, then it's all wrong, right? And you can't have freedom if you've got pain, right? That sort of polarity, it's either this or that, and if one is present, then the other can't be present. It's just not the truth, right? We can be very happy, we can be very joyful, we can feel very purposeful, we can feel very empowered on this planet, and still have pain, sadness, frustration, anger. We can still have anger and be happy, right? Because we recognize why we are angry. And so we're still happy, even though right now I'm experiencing the emotion of anger for a valid reason. So that's okay. It doesn't have to take away my happiness. It doesn't need to take away my joy. It doesn't mean I've lost my purpose. It doesn't mean I'm broken. I'm not broken for feeling pain, right? Because pain is a natural part of being embodied in a human. And so, but unfortunately, we've been indoctrinated into the other, that if any of those lower vibrations are present, then somehow we're failing and we need to do something. We need to fix something rather than just recognize it and allow it to release. Anyway, my friends, as per usual, going over time, I've got something else to do very shortly, so I better skedaddle. Much, much love to you all. Happy February. Keep moving through in an empowered way. We will be, I don't know sure what I'm doing, full moon, new moon. I haven't even looked. So no doubt we'll be doing something. We're here to serve. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, if you feel that I could help you individually as well, reach out. Put posts on here about what's going on for you. Send me an email, mantara@mantara.nz, and I will help you as best I can. Much love. Bye for now. Namaste. Breathe and relax and enjoy. The world is looking chaotic, but you don't need to be suffering in it. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. Much love, my friends. Bye for now. Bye-bye.